The impact of Chinese culture on Vietnamese festivals. The Vietnamese culture is a blend of different cultural influences, including Chinese, Indian, and European. However, Chinese culture has had the most profound impact on the Vietnamese culture, particularly the festivals. Vietnamese festivals like Tet, Mid-Autumn Festival, and Hun King's Festival have strong roots in Chinese culture, while some have evolved to suit the Vietnamese way of life. This article examines the impact of Chinese culture on Vietnamese festivals, how they have evolved, and their significance to the Vietnamese people. The Tet Festival, also known as the Lunar New Year, is the most significant festival in Vietnam. It marks the beginning of the Vietnamese calendar and is celebrated on the first day of the first lunar month, usually between late January and early February. The festival lasts for 7 days and is full of traditions, customs, and rituals. The Tet Festival has deep roots in Chinese culture and has been celebrated in Vietnam for over 2,000 years. The Chinese New Year is the inspiration behind the Tet Festival, and many of the customs and practices associated with Tet are similar to those of the Chinese New Year. For instance, before Tet, Vietnamese people clean their houses and decorate them with flowers, particularly peach and apricot blossom, as the Chinese people do. Cleaning the house before the festival symbolizes the removal of bad luck and welcoming good luck. Similarly, in Chinese culture, people clean their homes to welcome the gods of wealth, happiness, and longevity. Another custom is offering ancestors incense sticks and food during the first day of Tet. It is believed that these offerings will bring good luck and prosperity to families. This tradition is also common in Chinese culture as people believe that the ancestors can bring good fortune to their families. Additionally, both Chinese and Vietnamese people often have a family meal on the first day of the Lunar New Year, which represents a reunion and strengthening of family bonds. The Mid-Autumn Festival, also known as Tet Trung Thu in Vietnamese, is another festival that has a strong Chinese influence. This festival is celebrated on the 15th day of the 8th lunar month, which usually falls in September or October. It is also known as the Children's Festival and is a time to celebrate the harvest, the full moon, and the importance of children in family life. The Mid-Autumn Festival is believed to have originated from Chinese folklore, where a lady called Chang Yi gained immortality and was sent to live on the moon. Vietnamese people also believe in the story of Chang Yi and celebrate the festival with activities such as dragon and lion dances, lighting lanterns, and eating mooncakes. Dragon and lion dances are traditional festivities commonly seen during Mid-Autumn Festival in many Chinese and Vietnamese communities. This tradition has been passed down from generation to generation and is believed to expel evil spirits and bring good fortune. Typically, the dances are accompanied by loud drums, cymbals, and firecrackers, which add to the festive atmosphere. Lanterns also play a crucial role in Mid-Autumn Festival celebrations. Lanterns come in different shapes, sizes, and colors and are often decorated with images of animals or characters from fairy tales. The lanterns are believed to symbolize children's innocence, purity, and playfulness. Children carry lanterns as they walk in the streets, join processions, and attend family gatherings. Mooncakes are also a significant aspect of Mid-Autumn Festival in both Chinese and Vietnamese traditions. Mooncakes are typically round or square pastry cakes with sweet fillings such as lotus paste, red bean paste, or salted egg yolks. The mooncakes symbolize the full moon and family unity since they are often shared among family members and friends during the festival. The most famous Vietnamese festival with Chinese roots is the Hung Kings Festival, which is celebrated on the 10th day of the third lunar month. The festival is a national holiday, and it honors the Hung Kings, who are considered the founders of the Vietnamese nation. The Hung Kings ruled Vietnam over 4,000 years ago and taught the people how to cultivate rice, hunt, and fish. The festival is a time to express gratitude to the ancestors and honor Vietnam's history. The Hung Kings Festival has strong Chinese roots since it evolved from Chinese religion, Taoism. Vietnamese people believe in ancestor worship, and they often visit ancestral tombs and temples, light incense, and offer food and fruits as a sign of respect. These traditions are also common in Chinese culture as people believe that their ancestors protect and support them. The Hung Kings Festival is celebrated with different activities such as dragon dances, folk games, and traditional performances. The festival also features a ceremonial offering called the Bon Chung, a square-shaped sticky rice cake wrapped in banana leaves, which symbolizes earth and heaven. Vietnamese people typically make Bon Chung a day before the festival starts and offer them to their ancestors as a sign of gratitude and respect. Apart from the festivals mentioned above, there are also Vietnamese festivals that have little or no Chinese influence. For example, Vu Lan Festival, also known as Ghost Month, is celebrated on the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, and is a time to honor the souls of the departed. Vietnamese people believe that the spirits of their ancestors come back to visit the living during this month, and they offer food, incense, and paper votive offerings to them. Another unique Vietnamese festival is the Wandering Souls Day, also known as Win Chu Festival, which is celebrated on the 15th day of the first lunar month. The festival is a time to honor and pray for the wandering souls and those who died without families or proper burial. Vietnamese people believe that these souls are lost and lonely and need comfort and offerings to find peace. One festival that has both Chinese and Vietnamese influence is the Whale Festival, which is celebrated in coastal areas such as Quang Ninh, Tua Chan Hu, and Con Hoa Province. The festival is held to honor and worship the whales, which are considered the gods of the sea and guardians of fishermen. The festival features a ritual procession, performances, and offerings of food and incense to the whales. These festivals serve as a reminder of the rich cultural heritage that has shaped Vietnamese society and provide an opportunity for people from different backgrounds to come together and celebrate their shared history. They also provide a platform for cultural exchange and understanding between different communities, both within Vietnam and beyond. In recent years, there has been a growing interest in Vietnamese festivals among tourists and visitors from around the world. Many travel to Vietnam to experience the vibrant atmosphere and colorful celebrations of Tet, Mid-Autumn Festival, and other festivals. This interest has also led to the development of cultural tourism, where tourists can learn about Vietnamese culture and traditions through visiting festivals, museums, and other cultural attractions. However, as tourist numbers continue to grow, there is also a need to ensure that these festivals remain authentic and true to their cultural roots. There is a risk that festivals could become too commercialized or lose their cultural significance in the rush to cater to tourists. To preserve the authenticity of Vietnamese festivals, it is essential to involve local communities in their planning and organization. The influence of French architecture on Vietnamese buildings. Vietnam is a beautiful country that is rich in culture, history, and tradition. It has a captivating history that dates back several centuries, revealing a tapestry of different cultures and influences. One of the most significant influences on Vietnamese culture, particularly in the realm of architecture, is French architecture. French architecture has wielded a profound influence on Vietnamese buildings, and this article will delve into the ways in which this influence manifests. French architecture arrived in Vietnam during the colonial era, when France controlled the country. French colonizers initially brought with them a mix of architectural styles, combining local Vietnamese influences with French styles. However, over time, French architecture began to dominate Vietnamese building design, with plenty of ornate colonial-era buildings constructed across the country. The most significant architectural style that has impacted Vietnamese buildings is the Beaux-Arts style. This style is considered one of the foremost examples of neoclassical architecture in the world, and it developed in France during the 17th century. Beaux-Arts is characterized by its grandiosity, symmetry, and attention to detail. One of the hallmarks of the Beaux-Arts style is the use of direct sunlight, which is used to emphasize the architecture's grandeur and highlight intricate detailing. The most prominent example of Beaux-Arts-influenced architecture in Vietnam is the Hanoi Opera House. This building was constructed in 1911 and was initially used as a meeting hall for French colonialists. With its stunning architecture and intricate embellishments, the Hanoi Opera House is considered one of the most beautiful buildings in Vietnam. Apart from the Hanoi Opera House, French architecture can be observed in various other buildings throughout the country. Examples include the Saigon Central Post Office and the Notre Dame Cathedral, both in Ho Chi Minh City. The Central Post Office is known for its grandiose arched ceilings and intricate details, while the Notre Dame Cathedral boasts twin bell towers and intricate stained glass windows, among other ornate features. Another way that French architecture has impacted Vietnamese buildings is through the use of the mansard roofing style. This style originated in France during the 17th century and is characterized by its steep, sloping sides. Vietnamese buildings that employ this style include the Hue Royal Palace and the Hanoi Old Quarter. These buildings are known for their ornate detailing and use of steep, sloping roofs that create a unique architectural style. In addition to Beaux-Arts architecture and the mansard roofing style, French architecture has made its mark on Vietnamese buildings through the use of iron frames and facades. Iron frames were a commonly used building material during the colonial period, and they were used to create large, open spaces within buildings. Vietnamese buildings that employ this style include the Saigon City Hall, with its stunning iron-framed roof, and the Phu Bay Airport Hangar, which utilized iron frames to create a grand structure. Facades, on the other hand, are another significant French architectural feature that can be observed in Vietnamese buildings. A facade is defined as the front of a building, and it is often decorated with embellishments such as columns, pediments, and friezes. Vietnamese buildings that employ this style include the Hue Imperial City Fortress, which has intricate facades that are decorated with ornate details. French architecture has also left its mark in many other aspects of Vietnamese culture beyond buildings. For example, it can be seen in the fashion industry as well. French colonizers introduced Western fashion in Vietnam during their colonial rule, and this influence can be observed even today. Vietnamese fashion, particularly traditional attire such as the áo dai, has evolved to incorporate elements of French fashion, such as high collars and long, flowing fabric. Moreover, the French also influenced Vietnam's culinary world. French cuisine, with its complex techniques and rich flavors, had a significant impact on the food culture of Vietnam. This influence can be seen in dishes such as banh mi, a Vietnamese sandwich that incorporates French baguette, and pâté and bocaux, a beef stew that features French spices like cinnamon and star anise. The influence of French architecture also extends to Vietnam's education system. French colonizers established many educational institutions throughout Vietnam, and this legacy can still be seen in the country's education system today. Many schools and universities in Vietnam still follow the French educational system, which emphasizes critical thinking, analysis, and creativity. The impact of French architecture on Vietnam's culture has created a unique blend of styles that showcases the beauty of both cultures. This blending of styles has led to the development of a unique Vietnamese aesthetic that has helped shape the country's identity. In addition to the impact of French architecture on Vietnam's culture, it is worth noting the role that Vietnamese culture itself has played in shaping its building styles and designs. Traditional Vietnamese architecture emphasizes an integration with nature and the use of local materials, such as bamboo and thatch. Architectural features such as courtyards, pagodas, and intricate tilework are also prominent in traditional Vietnamese buildings. The blend of French and Vietnamese architectural styles has also led to the creation of a specific type of building known as the Indo-Chinese villa. These villas were built during the French colonial era and feature a combination of French and Vietnamese architectural elements. They typically have spacious gardens and courtyards, large windows to let in natural light, and ornate detailing such as decorative tiles and wrought iron balconies. The Indo-Chinese villa style has become particularly popular in recent years, with many developers and architects seeking to create modern versions of these historic buildings. The popularity of this style can be seen in the rise of luxury villas in areas such as Da Nang and Hoi An, which often incorporate both French and Vietnamese architectural elements. It is also worth noting that while French architecture has had a significant influence on Vietnamese buildings, it is not the only foreign influence that can be observed. Chinese and Japanese architectural styles have also impacted Vietnamese buildings, particularly in the realm of temples and pagodas. These styles are characterized by their intricate detailing, curved roofs, and ornate sculptures and carvings. One final significant way that French architecture has influenced Vietnamese buildings is through its impact on urban planning. French colonizers introduced new methods of urban planning that prioritized order, efficiency, and cleanliness. They sought to create cities that were organized along rational lines, with wide boulevards, spacious squares, and public buildings that emphasized grandeur and authority. This approach to urban planning can be seen in cities across Vietnam, particularly in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. Wide avenues such as the Trang Chien and Hue Boulevards in Hanoi and Dong Quoi in Ho Chi Minh City were built during the French colonial era and remain central to the city's urban fabric. Public buildings such as the Central Post Office and the Saigon City Hall were also constructed during this period and continue to be important landmarks in their respective cities. The French approach to urban planning has also had an impact on the way public spaces are used in Vietnam. The legacy of Nguyen Tre. Nguyen Tre, also known as Nguyen Tre the Grand, is considered one of the most influential Vietnamese poets and political figures in history. Born in 1380 in Thang Long, the former capital of Vietnam, Nguyen Tre lived through a period of frequent turmoil and unrest in the country. His life story is one of defiance, resistance, and ultimate triumph over adversity, serving as a source of inspiration for generations of Vietnamese people. Today, his legacy lives on as a symbol of patriotism and national identity. Nguyen Tre's childhood was marked by tragedy and hardship. His father died when he was young, leaving his mother to raise him and his siblings alone. Despite these challenges, Nguyen Tre excelled academically and showed a natural talent for poetry. He was tutored by some of the most famous scholars of his time, and by the age of 17, he had become a renowned poet himself. However, Nguyen Tre's political ambitions soon brought him into conflict with the ruling powers of the day. In the late 14th century, Vietnam was ruled by the Ming dynasty of China, which had conquered the country in 1407. Nguyen Tre quickly became one of the leading voices of resistance against Chinese rule. He joined forces with other Vietnamese patriots and actively campaigned for the country's liberation. In 1428, under the leadership of Le Loi, Nguyen Tre's mentor and close friend, Vietnamese forces emerged. Victorious in the Lam Son Uprising, which resulted in the overthrow of the Ming dynasty and the re-establishment of Vietnamese independence. Nguyen Tre played a crucial role in the war effort, using his writing skills to rally support for the cause and inspire soldiers on the battlefield. Nguyen Tre's contribution to Vietnamese independence did not end with the Lam Son Uprising. He went on to serve as an advisor to Le Loi, playing an instrumental role in shaping the young nation that would emerge from the war. Among his many accomplishments, Nguyen Tre is credited with helping to draft the Con Ngo Bin Don, a document that laid out the principles of governance that would guide the new Vietnamese state. The Con Ngo Bin Don remains a revered text in Vietnamese history, and its ideals of justice, compassion, and patriotism continue to inspire Vietnamese people today. Nguyen Tre's poetry was also a central part of his legacy. He wrote in a style known as Luc Bat, which features 8-syllable lines arranged in alternating pairs, and is often compared to the terza rima used by Dante in the Divine Comedy. Nguyen Tre's poems were widely read and celebrated during his lifetime, and continue to be cherished by Vietnamese people today. Many of his verses speak to themes of love, nature, and the beauty of his homeland. Despite his many accomplishments, Nguyen Tre was not always celebrated in his own time. He was seen as a threat by some of the ruling elite, who feared his influence and sought to undermine him. In 1430, he was falsely accused of treason and sentenced to death. It was only through the intervention of Le Loi that he was spared, and he spent the rest of his life in exile, living quietly in the countryside. Nguyen Tre's final years were marked by a sense of isolation and loneliness. He dedicated himself to writing poetry, but was unable to fully escape the shadow of his past. Despite this, he continued to be a symbol of hope and inspiration for generations of Vietnamese people. His name became synonymous with resistance and patriotism, and his life story served as a reminder of the resilience and strength of the Vietnamese people. Today, Nguyen Trai's legacy lives on in many ways. His poems are still widely read and studied, and his ideas on governance and justice continue to inspire Vietnamese scholars and thinkers. He is also honored in art and culture, with statues and monuments erected in his honor throughout the country. Perhaps most importantly, Nguyen Trai remains a symbol of Vietnamese identity and pride, a reminder of the long history and deep cultural roots of the country. In a time when Vietnamese identity is often threatened by globalization and outside influence, Nguyen Trai's example serves as a beacon of hope. He showed that even in the face of overwhelming odds, it is possible to fight for what you believe in and ultimately triumph. As Vietnamese people continue to navigate the complexities of the modern world, Nguyen Trai's legacy serves as a reminder of the rich cultural heritage and strong national identity that defines the country. Furthermore, Nguyen Trai's impact extends beyond national borders. His poetry has been translated into multiple languages and has been introduced to global audiences. His works have been adapted into operas, plays, and musical compositions. In fact, Nguyen Trai's poem Lament for Lady Vuong was the inspiration for the epic opera The Tale of Lady T Kim by Vietnamese composer Du Hong Quan. Nguyen Trai's life and achievements have also been recognized internationally. In 1975, he was posthumously awarded the World Peace Council's Lenin Peace Prize, which was the Soviet equivalent to the Nobel Peace Prize. This award recognized his contribution to the struggle for Vietnamese independence and his commitment to peace and justice. In Vietnam, Nguyen Trai's name is often invoked in discussions of politics and national identity. His spirit of resistance and patriotism has played an important role in the country's history, and continues to inspire people today. However, his legacy also raises important questions about the relationship between political power and poetic influence. The fact that he was persecuted by some members of the ruling elite underscores the tension that can exist between artistic expression and political authority. Despite these complexities, Nguyen Trai remains an icon of Vietnamese culture and history, a testament to the resilience and perseverance of the Vietnamese people. His life story serves as a powerful reminder that even in the darkest times, there is hope for a better future. As the world continues to face new challenges and uncertainties, Nguyen Trai's legacy offers valuable lessons about the importance of identity, community, and the pursuit of justice. Nguyen Trai's legacy also highlights the importance of education, particularly in times of political turmoil. Despite the challenges and hardships he faced early in his life, Nguyen Trai was able to excel academically and develop his skills as a poet. His education gave him the tools he needed to become a powerful voice for Vietnamese independence and a leading figure in the country's political and cultural landscape. Today, education remains a key factor in shaping Vietnam's future. The country has made significant strides in improving access to education, with literacy rates now approaching 95%. However, challenges remain, particularly in rural areas and among disadvantaged populations. The origin of Vietnamese language. The Vietnamese language is a fascinating and unique language that is spoken by over 90 million people worldwide. But where did this language originate from? In this article, we will explore the origin and development of the Vietnamese language. Early history. The Vietnamese language has a long and complex history that can be traced back over 4,000 years. The earliest known form of the Vietnamese language can be dated back to the Bronze Age, where archaeological evidence indicates that a people known as the Dong Son inhabited the Red River Delta region of what is now northern Vietnam. The Dong Son people were skilled metallurgists who produced bronze drums, bells, and weapons. The inscriptions on these bronze artifacts give us the earliest known evidence of the Vietnamese language. During the Chinese domination of Vietnam from 111 BC to 938 AD, the Vietnamese language was heavily influenced by Chinese. Many Chinese words were incorporated into the language, and Chinese characters were used to write Vietnamese for a time. However, over time, the Vietnamese adapted the Chinese characters to their own writing system, known as Chu Nam. During the 16th century, the Portuguese arrived in Vietnam, introducing the Vietnamese to Roman script. This became the predominant writing system for the Vietnamese language, and it remains that way today. The development of modern Vietnamese. Modern Vietnamese has evolved significantly from its early origins. The language has undergone significant changes due to historical, cultural, and social events, such as the French colonization of Indochina in the 19th century. In the 17th century, the Vietnamese language was standardized by a group of scholars, who created a dictionary and grammar book known as the Quoc Ngu. This book provided a standardized way of writing and speaking Vietnamese and is still used today. In the 19th century, French colonizers introduced additional changes to the Vietnamese language. The introduction of French vocabulary and grammar rules helped to modernize the Vietnamese language, making it more functional for modern contexts such as commerce, politics, and science. During the 20th century, the Vietnamese government implemented a series of language reforms. These reforms aimed at standardizing the language, simplifying the writing system, and eliminating archaic characters that were difficult to use and teach. One significant change that occurred during this time was the elimination of tonal differences in Northern Vietnamese, which made the language easier to learn and use. The Vietnamese language also changed with the adoption of new loanwords from other languages, especially English, in the post-colonial period. Characteristics of the Vietnamese language. The Vietnamese language has several unique characteristics that make it unlike any other language in the world. Tone. Perhaps the most significant feature of the Vietnamese language is its use of tones. Unlike most languages, which use pitch to convey emphasis or meaning, Vietnamese uses tone. There are a total of 6 tones in the Vietnamese language, including 5 tones marked with diacritical marks, and 1 unmarked tone. The tones in Vietnamese can be difficult to learn for non-native speakers, as they can significantly alter the meaning of a word. For example, the word ma can mean ghost, horse, or mother, depending on the tone used to pronounce it. Grammar. Vietnamese grammar is relatively simple and straightforward. The sentence structure follows a subject-verb-object order, and there are no articles or gendered nouns. Instead, the language uses classifiers to distinguish between different types of nouns. For example, instead of using different words for chair and table, Vietnamese uses the same word for both and then specifies the type of furniture with a classifier. This allows for more flexibility in sentence construction and allows speakers to convey more information in a concise way. Writing system. The Vietnamese writing system uses the Roman alphabet, but with some additional diacritical marks. These marks indicate the tone of a word and allow the reader to distinguish between words with the same spelling but different meanings. The Vietnamese writing system is relatively easy to learn for English speakers, but it can be challenging for speakers of other languages. However, the adoption of the Roman script has helped to make the Vietnamese language more accessible to speakers of other languages, especially in the age of globalization. In addition to its linguistic features, the Vietnamese language also reflects the country's culture and history. For example, many words in Vietnamese related to food, clothing, and daily life are heavily influenced by Vietnamese customs and traditions. One example of this is the word pho, a popular Vietnamese dish made with noodles, broth, and meat. The word pho is actually a Vietnamese adaptation of the French word pot au feu, which was introduced to Vietnam during the French colonization period. Another example is the word áo đai, which refers to the traditional Vietnamese dress. The word áo means shirt, while đai means long, reflecting the dress's long, flowing design. The Vietnamese language has also played an important role in the country's history and politics. During the Vietnam War, for example, the North Vietnamese government used language as a tool of propaganda, spreading anti-American messages through newspapers, posters, and radio broadcasts. In the aftermath of the war, the Vietnamese government implemented language policies aimed at helping the country recover and rebuild. One of these policies was the promotion of the use of Quoc Ngu, the standardized writing system. Created in the 17th century, as a way of increasing literacy rates and improving communication throughout the country. Today, the Vietnamese language continues to play a vital role in the country's culture, identity, and development. Despite its complex history and unique features, the language has proven adaptable and capable of meeting the changing needs of Vietnamese society. As Vietnam continues to modernize and develop, the Vietnamese language will undoubtedly continue to evolve and grow, reflecting both its rich history and the changing needs of the country's people. The language's importance cannot be overstated, and it will undoubtedly remain a cornerstone of Vietnamese culture and identity for generations to come. The role of traditional medicine in Vietnamese culture. Vietnam is home to a rich cultural heritage that encompasses numerous practices, beliefs, and traditions that are unique to the country. One of the most interesting aspects of Vietnamese culture is traditional medicine, which has played a crucial role in the country's history and continues to be widely used today. In this article, we will explore the role of traditional medicine in Vietnamese culture and how it has evolved over the centuries. Traditional medicine in Vietnam has a history that dates back more than 2,000 years. The practice originally began in China and was introduced to Vietnam around 1000 BC. The earliest forms of Vietnamese traditional medicine involve the use of herbs and other natural remedies to treat a variety of ailments. Over time, traditional medicine evolved to include other practices such as acupuncture, massage, and even spiritual healing. One of the most important aspects of traditional medicine in Vietnam is the concept of balance. According to traditional medicine, the body is made up of 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Each of these elements is associated with different organs, and if there is an imbalance in any of these elements, it can lead to illness. For example, if the liver element is out of balance, it can result in problems such as headaches, fatigue, and digestive issues. In Vietnamese traditional medicine, the goal is to restore balance to the body. This can be accomplished through a variety of methods such as acupuncture, moxibustion, and cupping. These techniques are designed to stimulate specific points on the body and help promote the flow of energy, or qi. By restoring the flow of qi, traditional medicine practitioners believe that they can help the body restore balance and heal itself. In addition to the use of natural remedies and physical therapies, traditional medicine in Vietnam also emphasizes the importance of a healthy lifestyle. This includes things such as eating a balanced diet, getting plenty of exercise, and practicing good hygiene. Traditional medicine practitioners believe that by following these principles, individuals can help prevent illness and maintain good health. Despite the advancements of modern medicine, traditional medicine remains very popular in Vietnam. In fact, according to a survey conducted by the World Health Organization, traditional medicine is the primary form of healthcare in rural areas of the country. This is due in part to the cost and availability of modern medicine, which can be prohibitively expensive for many people. Additionally, traditional medicine is often viewed as being more holistic and natural, which appeals to many Vietnamese people. One of the most interesting aspects of traditional medicine in Vietnam is the role that it plays in spiritual health. For many people in Vietnam, traditional medicine is not just about treating physical ailments but also about connecting with the spiritual realm. This can involve practices such as meditation, prayer, and the use of talismans and amulets. For some, traditional medicine provides a sense of comfort and reassurance during difficult times. Another important aspect of traditional medicine in Vietnam is its connection to the country's history and culture. Many of the traditional remedies and practices used today have been passed down through generations of Vietnamese families. This has helped to preserve the country's cultural heritage and keep traditional medicine alive. There are several challenges facing traditional medicine in Vietnam today. One of the biggest challenges is the lack of formal regulation and standardization. Unlike modern medicine, which is heavily regulated and standardized, traditional medicine in Vietnam is largely unregulated. This can make it difficult for individuals to know which practitioners are qualified and which remedies are safe and effective. Another challenge facing traditional medicine in Vietnam is the perception that it is outdated and inferior to modern medicine. While traditional medicine does have limitations and is not always the best choice for every situation, it is important to remember that traditional medicine has been used successfully for thousands of years. Rather than dismissing traditional medicine outright, it is important for modern medicine practitioners to work together with traditional medicine practitioners to find the best solutions for each individual patient. Furthermore, traditional medicine in Vietnam has gained international recognition. In 2017, Vietnamese acupuncture was added to the representative list of the Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity by UNESCO. This recognition helps to preserve the traditional practice and promote its importance to the world. Moreover, there has been growing interest in traditional medicine in recent years, not just in Vietnam but around the world. Many people are turning to traditional remedies and therapies as a way to complement modern medicine and promote overall wellness. This has led to an increase in research and scientific studies on traditional medicine in order to understand its mechanisms and effectiveness. In response to the challenges facing traditional medicine in Vietnam, efforts are being made to regulate and standardize the practice. The Vietnamese government has established the Department of Traditional Medicine to oversee and regulate the practice of traditional medicine in the country. Additionally, there are now formal training programs and certification processes for traditional medicine practitioners. It is worth noting that traditional medicine in Vietnam is not the only form of alternative medicine that is popular in the country. Other forms of alternative medicine, such as traditional Vietnamese massage, called Khoi Len La Suc Khoe, herbal medicine, and spiritual healing are also widely practiced. Traditional Vietnamese massage involves a mix of techniques including acupressure, kneading, and stretching. It has been passed down through generations of families and is often used to treat muscular aches and pains. Many Vietnamese people believe that regular massage can also promote overall health and well-being. Herbal medicine is another important aspect of alternative medicine in Vietnam. Herbs such as ginseng, ginger, and cinnamon are used to treat a variety of ailments, such as digestive issues, headaches, and fatigue. Many traditional medicine practitioners in Vietnam also use combinations of herbs to create remedies tailored to each individual patient. Spiritual healing is also a popular form of alternative medicine in Vietnam. Many Vietnamese people believe in the power of talismans, amulets, and other spiritual objects to protect them from harm and promote good health. For some, traditional medicine and spiritual healing go hand in hand and are used together to treat the body and the soul. While traditional medicine and alternative medicine in Vietnam are widely used and valued, it is important to remember that they are not without risks. The story of Princess Ngoc Hoa and the French invasion. Princess Ngoc Hoa is an important figure in Vietnamese history. She was born into the imperial Nguyen dynasty in the mid-19th century and was the daughter of Emperor Tu Duc. Her story is closely tied to the French invasion of Vietnam, which took place during this time period. In this article, we will delve deeper into the fascinating story of Princess Ngoc Hoa and her role in this tumultuous period of Vietnamese history. Prior to the French invasion, Vietnam had been ruled by the Nguyen dynasty for several centuries. During this time, the country had experienced relative stability and prosperity. However, by the mid-19th century, the Nguyen rulers were facing an ever-increasing threat from foreign powers. In particular, the French had established a powerful presence in Southeast Asia, and they were eager to expand their influence in Vietnam. In 1858, French forces under the command of Admiral Charles Rigaud de Genouilly invaded Vietnam. The Nguyen dynasty, which was already weakened by internal dissent and regional conflicts, was ill-prepared to defend itself against this powerful foreign adversary. The French quickly captured several key port cities, including Da Nang, and proceeded to push further inland. Princess Ngoc Hoa was only a child at the time of the French invasion, but she would soon find herself at the center of this conflict. When the French captured Hue, the imperial capital of Vietnam, they demanded that Emperor Tu Duc surrender the city and submit to French authority. The emperor, however, refused to give in to the French demands and instead chose to flee the city with his entourage. Among those who accompanied Emperor Tu Duc on his flight from Hue was Princess Ngoc Hoa. The young princess was only 8 years old at the time, and she was forced to endure a grueling journey through mountainous terrain as her father's court fled from the French. Along the way, the imperial party faced numerous challenges, including attacks from bandits and difficult terrain. Despite these obstacles, Princess Nok Hoa remained steadfast and resilient. She was already exhibiting the calm and determined demeanor for which she would later become known. In fact, it was during this period that she earned the nickname the Iron Lady for her unwavering strength and courage in the face of danger. Eventually, the imperial party reached safety in the city of Quang Tri, where they established a temporary court. However, their respite was short-lived. In 1861, the French captured Saigon, the largest city in Vietnam, and established a colonial government there. This marked the beginning of a long and bitter struggle between the Vietnamese people and their French occupiers. Princess Nok Hoa remained at her father's side throughout these tumultuous years. She was a fixture at court, and she often accompanied her father on diplomatic missions and other official business. Despite her young age, she was known for her intelligence and her sense of diplomacy, and she quickly earned a reputation as an important advisor to her father. However, despite the princess's best efforts, the French continued to expand their influence in Vietnam. In 1883, they declared Vietnam a protectorate of France, effectively ending the Nguyen dynasty's sovereignty over the country. Emperor Tu Duc was stripped of his title and power, and he died shortly thereafter. After her father's death, Princess Nok Hoa found herself in a difficult position. As a member of the Nguyen dynasty, she was viewed with suspicion by the French colonial government. However, as a woman, she was not seen as a threat to French authority. This allowed her to remain in Vietnam and to continue her work as an advocate for her people. Over the years, Princess Nok Hoa became known for her charitable work and her efforts to improve the lives of the Vietnamese people. She founded several schools and hospitals, and she worked tirelessly to promote education and social welfare initiatives. Her efforts earned her the respect and admiration of the Vietnamese people, but they also put her in conflict with the French colonial government. In 1913, Princess Nok Hoa was accused of conspiring against the French colonial government. She was arrested and imprisoned, but she was eventually released due to her failing health. She retired from public life and spent her remaining years in seclusion. She died in 1941 at the age of 91. Today, Princess Nok Hoa is remembered as a national hero in Vietnam. She was a symbol of resistance against foreign occupation and a tireless advocate for the Vietnamese people. Her story is a testament to the courage and resilience of the Vietnamese people in the face of adversity. Princess Nok Hoa's legacy continues to live on in modern-day Vietnam. Her story serves as an inspiration to the Vietnamese people, particularly women, who emulate her courage and determination in the face of adversity. Her life is a reminder of the importance of standing up for one's beliefs and fighting for what is right. In recent years, there has been renewed interest in Princess Nok Hoa's life and legacy. In 2018, a book titled The Iron Lady of Vietnam, a biography of Princess Nok Hoa was published, which chronicles her life and achievements. The book has helped to raise awareness of Princess Nok Hoa's contributions to Vietnamese history and has inspired a new generation of Vietnamese women to follow in her footsteps. Furthermore, in 2020, a statue of Princess Nok Hoa was unveiled in Da Nang, the city where the French first landed on Vietnamese soil during the invasion. The statue depicts Princess Nok Hoa as a young girl, holding a fan and wearing traditional Vietnamese clothing. It serves as a reminder of the bravery and resilience of the Vietnamese people in the face of foreign aggression and colonization. Princess Ngoc Hoa's story is a testament to the enduring power of resilience in the face of adversity. Despite facing numerous challenges throughout her life, she remained steadfast in her commitment to her people and her country. Her unwavering strength and courage have inspired generations of Vietnamese, and her legacy continues to resonate today. She remains a symbol of hope and inspiration for a nation that has endured centuries of turmoil and hardship. Princess Ngoc Hoa's story is also a reminder of the complex historical relationship between Vietnam and its former colonizers. While the French invasion and subsequent colonization had a devastating impact on the country, Princess The True Story of Trung Sisters Uprising. The True Story of Trung Sisters Uprising. The Trung Sisters Uprising was a pivotal moment in the history of Vietnam. The two sisters, Trung Trac and Trung Nhi, led a rebellion against the Chinese Han Empire in AD 40, which resulted in the establishment of their own independent kingdom. The Trung sisters' story is an inspiring tale of courage, determination, and love for their country that resonates with Vietnamese people to this day. Background: During the late years of the Han Dynasty, 206 BC to AD 220, the Han Empire conquered many territories in Southeast Asia, including northern Vietnam. The Han Empire imposed its authority on Vietnam by appointing local officials, who served as intermediaries between the Han Dynasty and the Vietnamese people. The Vietnamese people were forced to pay tribute to the Han government, and many Vietnamese lands were seized and turned into Chinese colonies. This occupation lasted for nearly a century, and Vietnamese people were treated as second-class citizens in their own country. The Trung sisters were born into the ruling class of Giao Châu, present-day northern Vietnam, and were part of a wealthy and influential family. Their father, Trung Q, served as a governor under the Han Empire, which allowed the family to live in relative comfort. However, their father's association with the Han government did not prevent the tragedy that would change their lives forever. In AD 39, Trung Trac's husband, Soc, a local leader who was appointed by the Han Empire, was accused of treason and executed by the Chinese authorities. Trung Trac was devastated by the loss of her husband, but her grief was soon overshadowed by her anger at the Han Empire's continued oppression of Vietnam. It was then that Trung Trac and Trung Nhi decided to take matters into their own hands and revolt against the Han dynasty. The Uprising. The Trung sisters began their rebellion on the first day of the Lunar New Year in AD 40. They rallied the support of neighboring towns and villages and formed an army of roughly 80,000 soldiers, composed of men and women. The Trung sisters led their army into battle, and their first target was the Han administration in their home province of Giao Châu. The Han officials were taken off guard by the sudden rebellion and were quickly defeated by the Trung sisters' army. After this initial victory, the Trung sisters continued their conquest and liberated many other Vietnamese territories from the Han Empire's rule. The rebels found support among the peasants, who had been oppressed for generations, and also among the Vietnamese aristocracy, who had grown tired of the Han Empire's corruption and lack of sympathy towards local customs and traditions. The Trung sisters' army marched towards the outskirts of the Han capital, where they encountered the Han army, which was several times larger than the rebels' forces. Despite being outnumbered, the Trung sisters fought with great courage, but they were ultimately defeated when the Han army used a clever tactic to lure them into a trap. The sisters fought until their last breath, refusing to surrender or become captives of the Han Empire. They rode their elephants into the river and drowned themselves, choosing death over slavery. The Trung sisters' cause, however, did not die with them, and their heroic acts inspired other uprisings and rebellions against the Han Empire. The legacy of the Trung sisters. The Trung sisters' rebellion left a lasting legacy in Vietnamese history. They became a symbol of Vietnamese women's strength and bravery and inspired future generations of women to fight for their rights and the independence of their nation. Vietnamese people celebrate the Trung sisters' uprising every year on the anniversary of their victory, which is known as the Day of the Two Sisters. The Trung sisters' story has been retold through literature, art, and various media, including poetry, novels, theater, and movies. Their life and legacy have become an integral part of Vietnamese culture and identity. Their heroic acts inspired Vietnamese nationalism and played a crucial role in establishing a sense of unity among the Vietnamese people, which was necessary for their eventual independence from foreign rule. Their story serves as a reminder of the struggles and sacrifices made by our ancestors to secure a better future for ourselves and for the generations to come. The Trung sisters' rebellion may have ended in defeat, but it marked the beginning of a new era in Vietnamese history. The Vietnamese people were inspired by their actions and started organizing their own resistance movements against foreign occupation and oppression. Many more uprisings followed in the centuries that followed, and all of them were motivated by the same sense of patriotism and love for their country that the Trung sisters exemplified. Today, Vietnam is a proud and independent nation, and the memory of the Trung sisters' uprising lives on in the hearts and minds of its people. Their story reminds us of the importance of staying true to ourselves and our beliefs, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. It teaches us that there is always hope, that we can always fight back against injustice and oppression, and that we can always make a difference if we believe in ourselves and our cause. The Trung sisters' uprising is not only significant for Vietnamese history but also for women's history around the world. The Trung sisters' story highlights the critical role women can play in times of conflict and revolution. Their rebellion was not only courageous but also strategically sound as they chose to create an army that included both men and women. The fact that their army was able to succeed without adhering to traditional gender roles was groundbreaking in a world where women were often expected to remain passive and silent. Moreover, their determination and unwillingness to surrender serve as an inspiration to people everywhere who are fighting for their rights and freedom. The Trung sisters' fight for independence is a reminder that the human spirit is strong and that even in the most challenging of circumstances, we can find the courage to persevere. Today, the Trung sisters are an important symbol of Vietnam's past, but their legacy extends far beyond the borders of the country. The story of their rebellion is one that should be shared with people around the world as an example of the courage and determination that we can all display in the face of oppression. In a world where gender inequality remains a significant challenge, the Trung sisters' story is particularly relevant. They provide a model for how women can make a difference in the world and show that bravery and determination are not the exclusive domain of men. Their story reminds us that no matter what life throws at us, we have the potential to rise up and make a difference. The Trung sisters did not allow the loss of their loved ones or the oppression of their people to defeat them. Instead, they chose to fight back and take control of their destiny. The Trung Sisters' uprising is a reminder that history is shaped not only by powerful leaders but also by ordinary people who are willing to take a stand. The rebellion was not led by warlords or politicians, but by everyday citizens who were tired of being oppressed. Today, as we face a world full of challenges and uncertainties, we can learn much from the Trung Sisters' story.